I gave Claude Code one prompt, and from there, we built my entire YouTube analytics data pipeline. Cloud functions, BigQuery tables, daily scheduler, everything needed in the Google Cloud Console, all stemming from a single prompt to Claude Code. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it, from writing the prompt to watching Claude Code generate the infrastructure, iterating with it, to deploying it live and seeing real data flow in. So here's the backstory. I have a YouTube channel, as you might know, this one, and I wanted to track how my videos are performing over time. And I also wanted to have a video surrounding BigQuery and Google Cloud Console, given these are two key tools and platforms in a data professional's tool belt. So I thought, why not do both at the same time? This will empower those of you working with Google Cloud Console to utilize Claude Code in helping you complete your daily jobs, plus collecting daily snapshots of views, watch time, likes, traffic, sources. The whole picture allows me and you other YouTubers potentially watching this to store it in BigQuery to run more customized, in-depth analysis around the content I produce or the content you produce if you adapt this for yourself. So this is not just a demo video, but you'll actually be watching me build something that has real value to me. To overview the video, first I'll show you the architecture, what we're building and why each piece matters, then the prompt, how I structured the instructions so Claude Code could build it in one shot with a little bit of iteration, admittedly. And then the actual build. Claude Code writes the cloud function, the BigQuery tables, the deployment scripts, helps me with the validation. And we'll also deal with the tricky parts in this, like the authentication for the YouTube Analytics API. And then finally, we'll deploy it, trigger it, and verify it, seeing that real data land in BigQuery from that scheduled job. By the end, you'll have a complete deployable pipeline you can adapt for your own projects that I will be utilizing for my own content. And more importantly, you'll see how to structure these AI prompts to do real infrastructure work with Google Cloud Console in BigQuery, not just throwaway scripts. While I did this for YouTube, and you can do this too for YouTube, this is also an example for how you can have Claude Code interact and create real data in Google's BigQuery and create real jobs using Google Cloud, all in the CLI and all in a fraction of the time it would take for you to do it. So with that, let's get into it. For this video, there are a couple key prerequisites and definitions that you need to have and understand. First, going over the prerequisites, you need the Google Cloud CLI, which includes BigQuery, as well as Python. Your computer should have this configuration, at least the Python portion of it. And if you don't have the Google Cloud CLI, which includes BigQuery, you can run this query within Claude Code and have it install it for you. And this is actually really critical, because even if you don't follow along with this whole video workflow, but you do have data in your data warehouse in BigQuery, then this is going to change your relationship with BigQuery, because now you can use Claude Code to actually run queries within BigQuery. And if I run that prompt here, which you can see install Claude Code or Google Cloud CLI on my machine, detect my OS architecture, download it. However, I already have it installed, so just check access to Google Cloud and BigQuery. This is my alteration of it. You can see that it will go through and authenticate, verifying that everything I have needed in order to work on this project is already installed and authenticated. Now, regarding the definitions here, you can see BigQuery, Cloud Function, Cloud Schedule, OAuth 2, API. I'm not going to spend time reading all of these definitions to you, but know that BigQuery is Google's serverless data warehouse. Think of it as Google's version of Snowflake or Amazon's Redshift, or any of the other number of data warehouses that exist out there. And then Cloud Functions are a small piece of code that runs in the cloud without you managing it. And then the scheduler is essentially just a cron job scheduler, while the OAuth is an authentication method to get the data that you need. Before we start building, let's understand what we're doing and why each piece exists. So here's the flow. Every day at 11:50 p.m. Arizona time, where I'm located, Cloud Scheduler wakes up and pings our Cloud function. And the Cloud function calls the YouTube data API to get the current stats like views, likes, comments for every video. And then it also calls the YouTube Analytics API for deeper metrics, watch time, traffic sources, impressions, click-through rates. And then it uses the secrets to authenticate, and it writes all of that data to BigQuery tables as a daily snapshot. And it does it again tomorrow and the next day, building a complete history of how every video performs over time. And so the key insight here is that this daily snapshot approach is really powerful because YouTube Studio only shows you the current title totals and the cumulatives. With snapshots, you can answer the questions like how many views did this video get in its first week versus its second week? What was my best performing day? And it's really helpful for a creator like myself to get these snapshots and understand my history. Now, what about these two APIs, the YouTube Analytics API and the YouTube Data API? Why do they exist? And this sort of tripped me up at first. Well, the Data API gives you all of the public stuff like view count, like count, comment count, video metadata, and it uses a simple API key. While the Analytics API gives you more of the private creator data for the average view duration, traffic sources, impressions, click-through rate, subscriber gains, and it requires the OAuth 2, which is why this specific authentication portion is here, meaning that you have to prove that you own the channel. And you really need both to get a full picture of the metrics for how your channel is doing. Where the data API is the what, how many views. The analytics API is the why. Where are those views coming from and how long did people watch? Now, regarding the 4 BigQuery tables down here in our YouTube Analytics dataset, the video metadata is a slowly changing dimension. So it has title, publish date, duration, whether it's short or full length, and it's updated daily in case of title changes. As well as all the other tables are updated daily with daily video stats. It's append-only snapshots from the data API, views, likes, comments that are cumulative. Daily video analytics, the watch time, impressions, click-through rate, subscriber gains or losses, daily traffic sources, your source type, your views, watch time, where the views are coming from, YouTube search, suggested videos, external, browse features, etc. And all is partitioned by snapshot date, so queries are able to stay fast and cheap, and everything is able to be related via a logical relationship with video ID and the snapshot date. So all of the joins between the tables are based upon those two keys. And here's what makes this great. The entire pipeline runs for free on the Google Cloud free tier. The Cloud functions have a free tier of 2 million invocations a month. We're doing 30 a month. Cloud Scheduler is 3 jobs across all projects that you have in your Google Cloud instance, and that we only have 1 job. BigQuery, 10 gigabytes of storage, 1 terabyte queries. We're not even scratching the surface of that. YouTube data API is 10,000 units per day. We're using about 4 units. And then the secret manager is 10,000 access operations per month, and we're using about 4 per day too. And the analytics API, I couldn't find specific quota information for that, but typically Google makes all of these APIs free up to a certain quota point, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's up to that 10,000 unit limit. All of this to say, You can run a production data pipeline on Google Cloud for literally $0 if you stay within the free tier. And admittedly, that's kind of hard to beat. Now, to build this pipeline, this was not something I knew how to do despite going over all the architecture and structure. I actually utilize this meta prompting framework from Tatches Teaches, another YouTuber, specifically this Claude Code skill called create prompt. And then we'll also utilize run prompt later in this video, which it essentially creates a XML structure for Claude Code to diagnose the specific sections of your prompt. And I'll link that YouTube video up above in the card. But essentially, it defines my objective here, the specific channel details of my context, my Google Cloud project, a little bit more information about the APIs we'll be using, the two YouTube APIs, and then the research and requirements in the BigQuery schema, cloud functions, OAuth 2 setup. All of this I will include in the repository, as you can see it here. But ultimately, what this is, it's a really structured way to prompt Claude Code to ultimately arrive at the successful conclusion for building something where you may not be the most familiar with that specific topic, like I am with building YouTube analytics pipelines. And this can be applied to your specific data analytics workflows and other areas that you may not be as familiar with as well. If I didn't have this prompt already prepared with all of this context in here, I would essentially start with Tatches CC resources, create prompt, and then copy and paste my pre-prepared prompt in here where I'd say I want to create an analytics pipeline and then build it out. And this works very similar to plan mode in Claude Code if I'm going to shift tab to that, where it will ask me a bunch of different questions. And ultimately what it generates is this XML output that, again, breaks it up into different sections. But that said, let's clear this. And now what we want to do is actually run it. We have all of this juicy context in here to help Claude be successful. And let me do run prompt, copy and paste the path for this so it knows exactly where to go. And we'll go through this troubleshooting, figuring it out, testing it along the way. So you all have the context and the knowledge needed to know the exact process I go through when I'm working with Claude Code in new ways like this. Let's click enter. And all right, I'm going to pause here and we'll come back once we get some progress made. All right, so you might have noticed that when I ran run prompt, I actually did it in plan mode. And so Claude took this prompt that we previously went over and returned to me a plan with 6 different phases for what it is going to do with a commit at each phase, utilizing BigQuery, utilizing the Google Cloud functions. And I reviewed this, and not to say that I am extremely knowledgeable about the right or wrong way to do things with Google Cloud analysis flows, but it's helpful to me to understand exactly how this project is going to be approached, utilizing BigQuery, utilizing Google Cloud. And all of this to say, the key insight here, and something I've continued to emphasize on all my videos, is that spending a lot of time on your prompts, so spending the 20, 30 minutes sometimes that takes to create a detailed prompt utilizing Claude Code, can really save you hours of debugging and rework, where the prompt here is the actual engineering work that comes with building a pipeline as complex as this. So I am going to click yes, bypass permissions, since it didn't really use that much context in building this plan, given that all of this was already here with the prompt and it utilized a planning agent, which saves the context of the main Claude Code agent. And we'll do yes, bypass permissions, and then off we go. Now, next time I'll come back, we'll actually have some new files written in here, some progress made. that hopefully we can look at and evaluate. Coming back after about 15 minutes, enough time for me to plant some parsley, mint, and oregano in my garden that I got from Trader Joe's. We can see that it has completed up until the point where it needs me to run a OAuth 2 consent flow by running this bash script. So I will do that in a second. But basically, it completed all 6 of these phases. I looked up through this different output. It wrote into the console here, or into my command line rather, and everything's looking good. It seems like it had to resolve a few of the different permission errors it ran into, but Claude Code is so good and Opus 4.6 is so good that I was able to reason its way through all of those issues. And now what I'm going to do at this point before running the bash script is I'm going to ask it, hey, where in my Google Cloud Console can I actually go to verify all of this implementation that you just completed? So I'm going to run this command and we'll pause here, give it a second to give me the URLs and help me find what I need to find. And a second later, it gave me all of these URLs. So let's do a command click. And awesome, I have these different API services pulled up that I need to verify. BigQuery tables, looking at the YouTube analytics here. And let me take a second to comb through all of this, but you can see how all this is outputted to me for viewing. And now I will go through and quickly pull up all these links to the appropriate locations to verify all of this with you all. I've pulled up all the interfaces that Claude Code gave me to review all of this work that it did, and I can see all of the API functions here, which I'm curious as to the errors specifically, as far as why they errored, if we figured them out. And then now here is the data part, the especially fun part for us data nerds, where we can see the 4 tables that it's actually created within my Google Cloud project. And I clicked all of those, and looking here, we can see all of them are partitioned tables by the specific snapshot date. And there's no data to display within this daily traffic sources, which is something I'm curious about, as well as this daily video analytics. But we get an insight into the schema here. I will move my face over to this area so we can see all the schemas. And then we can see here all the daily video stats along with the unique identifiers for the video ID, and then the specific videos with the metadata along with the tags I have for the video. And let's look at the schema and we can see all of this information here, which, you know, if I want to come back and alter these columns, add more information, append more rows, that should be taken care of. The appending of the row should be taking care of the job, but the appending of additional columns, I can come back to this Claude Code project and ask it and plan for it to actually bring in more information if that is needed. So again, the thing I'm curious about here is for those other 2 tables, why isn't there data if it has to do with my lack of authentication that it told me, moving my head back to the bottom left portion here. And now for the Cloud Run, we can see the source code that I have here, as well as the observability for the YouTube BigQuery pipeline, which is great. Good to know about all of this, although I'm unfamiliar with this interface. We can see the job has not run yet, so curious, again, is this an authentication issue that we're waiting on as far as why it hasn't run? My specific secret for my YouTube data API key, my YAM permissions for this service account. As far as how this was created, this is not something I manually created, so I just want to understand how from Claude Code, how it did this, and then the build data, where we can see there's one failed build here, as well as 3 other successful builds. So going to our repo, I have these 6 feedback points where why is there no data? There are some errors with some of the APIs. Why is that? Thirdly, why have not we run that? And then the only secret is that YouTube data API key. Is this what I should expect? Unfamiliar cloud build. Is there a specific region I need to be looking at, given that these builds and these projects can be hosted in different computers in different regions of the United States for my use case, since I'm building it within the United States. And then also, how was that principle created, given that I did not create that, just because I want to understand it. And oftentimes what I do when I have questions like this is I'm going to screenshot this information. And this is a really nice feature of Claude Code. Do Command C, paste it, and now we can see here the image is in there. It is this image, this screenshot, for what we want Claude Code to investigate that. So I'll send this feedback. And again, this is the iterative process I have with Claude Code, where I'll screenshot things, I'll take notes in another screen. I was taking notes on all these 6 points in a text editor and just copy and pasted them into here so that I can understand exactly what Claude Code did during this process. And that way it's easy for me to investigate and get the visibility. So let me look at these answers real quick, and then we'll come back shortly. After reading Claude Code's answers here to all my questions, it seems like everything is in order here, where these 2 tables are populated by the YouTube Analytics API, which requires an OAuth 2 authentication, which I haven't executed that manual flow yet. The API errors should be transient, and it should be a 0% error rate once I run the job tomorrow too, or once Google Cloud runs the job tomorrow, since I will not be doing that manually. And then we ran a curl function, meaning we just manually launched the job and didn't actually use a scheduler, which is why we don't see it actually within the interface as having run. But it will work for the data API tables immediately, but won't work for the analytics API. So we'll hold off until we get everything configured with the OAuth 2. And then everything else seems like it's in order. The compute service account was something that was created automatically by Google. And then I also wanted to understand the data a little bit more. So just to get a sense of exactly how the data is appended, how it was implemented, because I know what I wanted in terms of the daily snapshot of this data flow, but I want to make sure that that's exactly what I'm getting. So I investigated more with Claude Code, asking exactly how it's appended, what do I need to do to add more columns or add new tables, and essentially it tells me that it's all partitioned by the snapshot date, looking at the video metadata, daily video stats, analytics, and sources too, and gives me the different grains of the tables and shows me for modifying the schema. But I don't really want to actually do this work myself, right? I'd rather ask Claude Code to do the specific data work for altering those structures. And then again, I just ask it, how about instead of running this job at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, excuse me, why don't we run it at the end of the day? Because for me as a content creator, I'd rather see how my video did once I released it at the end of the day. So typically with these videos, I release them in the morning, during a weekday, or mid-afternoon sometime. So for those first few hours, I want to understand exactly what those statistics were. And I badly spelled Phoenix here, but it was able to make that schedule change And then it told me what additional data I can add to the tables with the description, default language, topic categories, definition, caption, and then also some additional metrics for the analytics API. This is all very interesting. I'm actually going to save this because description is something I really want to save to help enable AI with crafting descriptions as I've written them to this point, because those can actually be a lot of work within the process, and saving the time to actually manually write the description would be really helpful, especially given all of these data points for these shorts and for the full-length videos that I have. So all of this leads us to, let's run the OAuth to authentication flow. So I'm clicking a split terminal and running this bash setup. So we'll go through and follow these instructions here. And all of these are for sensitive credentials. So I'm going to pause and come back. I followed the instructions and now we have completed the setup. I went through each of these first two steps. It doesn't appear exactly like it says within these first two steps in the Google Cloud Console, but it is very clear enough where all of these options are listed in each of these steps. So I was able to follow them. And then essentially I asked Claude Code some questions. Again, gave it a screenshot of, hey, exactly what authentication method do I want to utilize, and then why am I doing it as a desktop app, and isn't this going to run in the cloud? And it gave me some different answers here, and ultimately ran through steps 3, 4, and 5 on its own. And scrolling down here, it stored all 3 of the secrets. I asked it to trigger it with the scheduler. It made some slight adjustments with the identity access management, IAM, for my user so that could run with the scheduler. And then ultimately, gave me some output for what the 4 tables look like. And I asked, is there anything else left to do? Put my app into production, check if the scheduler worked, and ultimately I can go through tonight at 11:50 p.m. Phoenix time, or a little bit after that, which it randomly got the hours wrong here. I don't know why large language models always struggle with this, but said that I can go and check it once it runs. I corrected it on the time. And so, about 7-ish hours from now, or tomorrow morning, I'll go in and check to make sure that this all works. And I will record during that to give you all insight to see if I need to troubleshoot more. Hopefully, the answer is that I do not need to troubleshoot more. However, before doing that, I just want to show everyone the screens I went through quickly, show you all know that what I've built here is a Google Auth platform with the application. And so you can see the app name, as well as my cool little robot logo I have on kclabs.ai. Small plug there. But I have the client ID for the desktop for the YouTube analytics pipeline, which essentially this is just a setup to authenticate for my personal Google account, which I run my YouTube with, to my business account, which I'm doing this whole process through. And then the jobs, we can see that it actually succeeded during its last run. It has the target URL shown, and then the build history, we see the latest build as well here that worked. And then secret manager, we have the 3 additional OAuth secrets that, are now stored within Google here. And then we lastly have our BigQuery data. So let's actually check to see whether or not the data that we were previously missing now is populated. So if I look at the daily traffic sources, let's go to preview. We can see that I have some views of daily traffic here within my shorts, subscribers, and where the information is coming from. So I'm going to ask Claude Code to explain this to me a little bit more, since I'm not exactly sure how to interpret this. And then we have the daily video analytics. Let's see. Awesome. So we have average minutes watched, and then the average view duration seconds, or estimated minutes watched, average view duration seconds, subscriber gains, shares, etc. too. And so let me go in and ask Claude Code to explain a little bit more about these tables. All right, coming back to Claude Code here, I wrote this prompt asking it to give me the information about these tables that I wasn't sure about. And it gave me all of these definitions here for all the different columns for me to understand exactly what's being written, which admittedly, I should have had a better idea for how to explain each column before going through this video. But hey, I'm sure the other data folks can understand. Sometimes you need to get your hands on the data in order to understand it at a deeper level. But all of these definitions are really helpful for the daily video analytics, and these are the metrics I'd normally see in YouTube Studio when looking at the backend. And then the analytics API only queried data from 3 days ago, which caught my interest, and so I wanted to ask a question about that. And then daily traffic sources showed me where my traffic is coming from, where it's YouTube search, suggested, external URLs, etc., with all the different values defined here. And so that led me to ask, when it runs later, we'll do it for today. And then can you write out the schema information into the README? So if we look at the README up here and I go to preview mode, I can scroll down and we have all of our schema information. That way you all can read it once you're reviewing this video if it interests you. And for me, it's really helpful to have that information put in here. That way I can reference it whenever I need to. And then beyond that, skipping screens around here a little bit, I also asked it to, beyond just giving me the data for today, which I'll check back later, can I run it for all historical data going back to October without giving me the cumulative data? And so for the data API, no, it doesn't. It only gives me current cumulative data. But the analytics YouTube API does support historical date ranges. And I asked it to do a backfill. And right now it is below doing the work for the backfill, but this is something that will be really helpful for me for getting all of this historical data. And again, all it comes down to is prompting Claude Code, asking it the right questions. And so it's writing me the script right now that it is running to get me the backfilled data here. You can see below that I've now messed around with my Claude Code screens a little bit. I actually started a second session of Claude Code. Here we can see it's going through my October backfill, or up to October backfill for all of the days. But one thing I wanted to point out is that Claude Code wrote out this additional sample query SQL file that really helps me with validation to understand exactly the data that is being inserted, since that was a question I just had to it. And what I did is, in addition to going into the interface and actually looking at the data myself, I asked Claude Code, again, being the quote-unquote lazy developer that I am, to run all of the queries for me and then tell me what each of the results means. And so what it's doing is it's using the BigQuery CLI, which was installed as a result of the Google Cloud CLI. and it's going through and running each one of those queries. And so what it's telling me is the latest snapshot overview, the top 10 videos by view, 7-day view growth, shorts versus full-length performance, 7-day view growth. And it looks like I've only had 2 days of snapshots thus far, so I hope I haven't had 0 views within the past 7 days, because that would stink. But it's giving me explanations at each point for all of these queries. That way I can really understand what's going on, and it can also help me troubleshoot in case there's any data that needs to be adjusted, any query that needs to be adjusted, excuse me. And so let me say, it says query 3 in the SQL file has a BigQuery incompatible subquery pattern. So yes, please update with the fixed version and rerun. Great. And so now it is going to rerun this, and then I'll quickly go into the BigQuery interface just to show you all what this looks like from within that. Now I'm in my actual BigQuery with the sample queries file that I copy and pasted, and we can see here my query results, where ultimately the last video I posted was a short today, and it has 110 views and 2 likes. And I can go back to all of my results here to see everything that succeeded. We can look at this query 3, which I believe is the with latest query. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. And then I don't think any of this should have views 7 days ago, because as I learned from talking with Claude Code in my other window here, there is not a week of snapshots left, and hence that view 7 days ago is always going to be 0 when there's data that is non-existent there. But I'm able to go through, verify that these are all returning results. All the results make sense, and now I can carry forward with actually finalizing this project once I verify that everything is working as expected. All right, it is very late at night, but I am here to verify that this all worked as I would hope. And essentially, with the backfill here, we got all 125 days of historical data loaded into our daily video analytics, daily traffic sources, after asking Google to perform a backfill to the date of my first video. And this is really useful to me because for those of you creators who might be implementing this yourself, then you can actually have it go back to your first video depending on when you started creating. And I know for some creators who have been at it a lot longer than I have, this will be a key feature for you understanding the history you've built up in YouTube. Now, regarding verifying Claude Code's output for this historical backload, as well as ensuring that our job ran correctly as we expected late at night, I prompted Claude Code. For whatever reason, my history is cut off here, so I can't go up further. But I basically asked it to run these verification queries, which I'll pull up shortly in the BigQuery UI, to ensure that all of the traffic was captured as expected, and then tell me a little bit about my best days for subscriber growth, best days for views, best days for watch time, and best day per traffic source, which it provides some interesting insights per each of these queries I asked it to do. As I'm still a small channel, still growing, but hopefully this video will get me more engaged viewers as I go on. And then I asked it, hey, I noticed that you said you were missing some days here. Can you investigate if this is expected view behavior? And it said, yes, they are, given that Analytics API has a 2-day processing delay, and October 22nd and 23rd actually didn't have anybody who watched. So it's great to go from days where nobody watched to now where days where definitely people are watching, at least on a daily basis. And what I did is, can you verify that the job tonight ran without any hitch? Check Google Cloud beyond the BigQuery logs. And so this is getting more into the details of the function that was actually ran. You can see here it struggles a bit finding the right YouTube daily snapshot. In another Claude Code session, I actually updated my Claude Markdown file, updated my context to make sure that it has everything that it needs for the context here too, to not make this mistake again. And then it said it had no application logs, which I found interesting, and that essentially just returned an empty bracket that indicates it was a success. And similar to the whole process that I did to start this, I used the create prompt from the Tach's resources to create better logging that will not break the job, and better context for you to check the job so you can more easily check it next time. Probably could have said that better, but hey, that's why I'm having Claude Code prompt it for me. And again, this interface is rendering weird, but you can see the prompt here, and it's actually stored within the prompts folder as well, underneath the add structured cloud logging. And it goes through, and eventually I have it run it and commit the changes and actually test it via the Google scheduler. And so what it does here, let me find it, is that the prompt executes select successfully, commit, deploy, and trigger the scheduler. And then it looks at the scheduler to ultimately say that, hey, this worked as expected, showing all of these now rich logs, so we have more capable debugging embedded within it. And to do the last step of verification, I want to go into the UI to make sure that everything is working and that all the output is expected. You can see here my YouTube daily snapshot job exists. It's enabled. Its next run is tomorrow at 11:50 p.m. and it was last updated at 1:10 a.m. This is like the fifth take I'm trying this, so you can see that I am up here late at night working through this, but that is all good because we are getting this done. And here is the BigQuery verification queries that I actually ran with Claude Code using the BigQuery command line interface. But again, just to check to make sure that they're all returning results. If I look at, say, the results of this query here, I can see the different snapshot dates, and let me look at the snapshot date for the subscribers gains and subscribers lost, which this is all really interesting, seeing the top 10 subscriber gained days as well, as long as with the loss for the total net subscribers. So all of this to say, this pipeline is working and it is now deployed, and now we can expect it to bring in my YouTube data, and it has my historical data inside my BigQuery data warehouse. So now I am set up for these YouTube analytics. And that wraps this video up. So what did we just do? We started by giving Claude Code a single structured prompt, and while it took a couple more prompts, we ended up with a complete production grade data pipeline that is 100% free and important to my channel, using a Python Cloud function for BigQuery tables, deployment scripts, authentication strategies, daily scheduling, and it is deployed and running. And now I have insights into my channel so I can understand how my videos perform and which perform better than others. And this is what AI-assisted development actually looks like for data professionals. It's not replacing you, but it compresses weeks of work into hours and enables you to do things you never thought possible. I know I never thought about doing this before AI came about, and it is ultimately freeing you up to focus on analysis and insights. Now, you may ask yourself, this information is great, but what should I do about it? Well, if you want to build the exact pipeline and utilize my prompting strategy, I'll link my repo below in the description, which includes my prompting strategy from Tasha's Teaches and the Claude Code plans I implemented. And you can fork this, utilize it for your own channel, or use it to inspire another data pipeline that you want to build in Google Cloud and with BigQuery. And if you're a Google Cloud shop, the Claude Code plus Google Cloud CLI plus BigQuery CLI is an incredibly powerful combo to accelerate your workflow and give you programmatic access to your data warehouse utilizing Claude Code. And if you're cost conscious, but you want to grow your data skills, well, this is a free tier friendly stack for lightweight data pipelines that can work for any API to warehouse workflow. So you can develop beyond what I just showed here. So everything ultimately you need to replicate this is linked in the description below in the repository. And I'd love to hear what you build with this. Drop a comment, tell me what data source you're piping into BigQuery utilizing the structure. And if this was helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. I make videos like this every week showing how data professionals and now YouTubers can use AI tools to build real infrastructure and not just demos. And as always, thank you so much, and I will talk to you next time.